All right, well, I'm Austin Wilson, and this is Josh Robb here with Hixon Zuercher Capital Management, here to provide you an economic and market update for the month of November, even though, as we're sitting here filming this,
you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. It's 70-some degrees. But by the time you're watching this, it might have cooled down a drop. But we're enjoying the little late summer bloom we're getting here. So Josh, what happened in the month of October?
Yeah, so the main thing we saw in October was we did see a lot of pressure put on the market. And there was really two factors for that. The first was the stimulus bill. We had a stimulus bill that came out early on this year, and that was really when COVID was starting out. And there's been talk of a second stimulus bill that may be needed for our economy. And there's been talk between the White House and the Democrats in the House, and they were trying to work out an agreement together. And what we saw was that stalled heading into the elections. Right. And so for all of October, there was kind of these ups and downs of we're making progress, now we're not. And so that caused a lot of volatility in October for the markets. Yeah. The other thing was we did actually see an increase in the COVID cases, not just here in the US, but globally. And so as there was another wave of COVID cases coming in, that put more pressure on the market as everybody was wondering what type of reactions are the government going to do? Is there going to be more shutdowns, more lockdowns? What kind of restrictions are going to be put on? So overall, markets were volatile in October because of those two. And so as a result, we saw the S&P 500, it was down about 3%. The NASDAQ was down about 2%, and the Dow, which was hurt the worst, was down about 5%. Yeah. So overall, it was a rough
It was a pretty rough month overall. But what was good on the back of all of that is that, yes, the economy is rebounding, and we continue to see not necessarily great numbers historically, but much improved numbers from what we had seen coming out of, the economic shutdown earlier in the year. So things could get better on the labor front all the time and all of that. But also, corporate earnings were, in general, much less worse than feared. So they were still, generally down year over year in a lot of ways, but corporations had earnings and revenue that surpassed expectations from Wall Street, and a lot of companies actually reinstated or even raised their already released guidance. So corporate earnings season was pretty good when you look at quarter three is what they were reporting on, and overall better than expected.
Yeah, and so really what we're looking at is through October, a lot of uncertainty. Heading into November, obviously there's something that happened at the beginning of November, and that was what October was. There's a term, October surprise, and that was always from an election standpoint, what could happen that would cause some changes to it. Yeah. So elections also had an impact in October.
So before you think that we're going to leave you without any news around the election, it looks like as we're sitting here on Monday, November 9th, on Monday, November 9th, it looks like the Associated Press has projected Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the president and vice president-elect for 2020. That will be inaugurated in 2021 in January there. It looks like we are going to see a similar situation in terms of Congress, where the Republicans are looking to remain in control of the Senate, and the Democrats are looking to remain in control of the House. And there were some seats moving between the two of them, but in general, that's going to be what's called gridlock. So Josh, what happened actually, the week of the election in the market?
Yeah, so surprisingly, that week was up. And so Monday and Tuesday, as the elections proceeded, the market was up. Mm-hmm. And then following that, even though there was no outcome known all the way through the weekend, the markets continued to go up for the rest of the week. We actually had one of the strongest weeks we've seen in a while. And the result of that was the removal of the uncertainty. It was a very orderly, and as well as can be expected, the election went smoothly. And so that resulted in the market responding with, oh, that's great. And then as a result too, although there's still some votes being counted and some things going through right now, like Austin said, it appears there's a deadlock within the branches, and that allows for the market to also be excited because less action from Congress usually means a better market. There's less uncertainty there.
Yeah, specifically speaking, in two areas that Wall Street was watching it is very unlikely with a gridlocked Congress that you're going to have crazy, large tax reform bills go through. It should be more or less status quo because the two sides can kind of butt heads and not push anything through. The same sort of thing can happen with healthcare reform. So those are the two areas where it seems less likely that there's going to be sweeping changes, and Wall Street likes not change. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at there. And today, so November 9th, we're seeing, before we sat down to film this video, we saw the Dow was up well north of 1,000 points.
Yes.
And what can that be attributed to, Josh?
So the main news there coming out of the weekend was that Pfizer, a drug company, announced some results from their trials for a COVID vaccine. And so they were seeing over 90% efficiency of that vaccine, which is, for a vaccine is a very,
Really
very
good,
positive
yeah,
results.
yeah.
But on top of that, they were seeing no adverse reactions as well, which had held up some other drugs early on. They were seeing some possible reactions. And so this has been great news. So again, as the economy is looking, that's one less thing that they have to kind of pay attention to, is now there's a potential vaccine on the horizon that could be out sooner than later.
So as we're sitting, markets are back up to all-time highs. Is kind of where things are looking for all three of the major U.S. indices within, plus or minus, spitting distance of all-time highs. So things are looking pretty good on that front, and that vaccine is kind of generally what is thought of as the next catalyst to get this pandemic behind us. So we're really bullish about that, and Wall Street feels the same way.
Yep. So this is Josh Robb and Austin Wilson from Hixon Zuercher Capital Management, thanking you for listening to our November update, and encouraging that if you have any questions or thoughts or concerns, please reach out to us at 419-425-2400, and we'd love to talk with you. And as always, nothing we mentioned today is a recommendation for you or investing. Please talk to your financial advisor before making a decision.
All right, well, enjoy the rest of your fall. Eat some turkey on Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for despite the challenges we've seen this year.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Bye.